Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here today. I wanted to start out with a survey and ask this question. Think back to when you were 12 years old. When you were 12, did you have a favorite college football team? And so by show of hands, I just want to know how many, it didn't have to be your one now, but how many had a favorite team when you were 12? All right, now that, we could make a lot of interesting points about that show of hands. It looked to me like about 2/3. And that says for me a number of things, but it really, the point I wanted to start with is that if you were like me and grew up in this country, you would have just taken it for granted that teams like North Carolina State and Georgia Tech would be playing on Saturdays, that they would garner a great deal of attention. They'd be on television and radio, that you'd read about them in the sports page, and people would care about what happened. And thousands of people would go to these games. But the United States is the only country in the world that has universities that do this sort of thing, that have what you'd have to call commercial sports. Because if you look at the North Carolina State football team, and it's the same in this respect as North Carolina, Duke, Wake Forest. In most respects, the football program at these colleges looks and feels and walks a lot like a professional team. And actually, when they're talked about on ESPN, they're actually, the teams are actually treated as a franchise in the same way the 49ers are. So why did I get into this subject, and how do I look upon it? Well, a little bit of autobiography. I did grow up, I had my favorite team. My team was Georgia Tech. I grew up in Atlanta, and I had the good fortune to go to a few games and watch them play against the likes of Duke and Alabama. And so I was interested in that. And then when I was in high school, I was a sports editor of my high school newspaper. But then that was it. I was just a normal, red-blooded American kid with sports interest. Then I went off and I went to graduate school and studied economics. And then I began work at the University of Maryland, which is a research university in College Park, Maryland. And one of the things that surprised me the most about being there was I knew I was going to be in the presence of really some great economists, and I knew that, and I thought at lunchtime we would talk about research articles and R-squared and growth rates, and in fact they did. But they also talked about the terrapins to an extent that I was very surprised. And then when I came to Duke University, you will not be surprised to learn that it's the same thing there. Of course they talk about articles, they talk about service teaching and research, but there's also a great deal of discussion about sports, especially this time of year, because basketball is a thing unto itself in this area. And so then it began dawning on me that there really was a parallel reality, because if you go to what Duke University says about itself in its mission statement, Duke publishes a mission statement, it's posted on the web. You will find a very long statement that talks about teaching and research and health and service. And there's not a single mention of the athletic programs that Duke has. But Duke is not atypical in this way. One of the things I did for the book was to look at the websites for 58 universities that are in one of the 5 big conferences, ACC, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12 back then, and the Pac-10, now the Pac, I guess it's 12 today, plus Notre Dame. Those are 58 universities. I looked at the websites there and found that they had 53 of them had mission statements. Only 5 of them even mention athletics. So there was I would say, an alternate reality. That when you see what universities say they are about research, teaching, and service, they are indeed about those things. But these universities also, I've come to conclude, that a major core function of these universities is also athletics. And I'll get into this if we have time, but really when I started off the project, I was suspecting two things. Number one is that these were going to be full of evil, cloaked in misappropriation of time and compromised values and hypocrisy. And there is that. But there is also an unheralded benefit or two that I'll talk about at the end that I think haven't been emphasized. And so that, in my view, big-time college sports is much bigger than simply a commercial enterprise. It, in fact, has cultural importance that I think needs to be thought about when you look at the whole package. Well, how did I view this project? So what I wanted to do was, because I was somebody enmeshed in this thing that we just take for granted, it's all around us, how can you do an objective measure of something like that? So what I tried to do was pretend I was a visitor from some other country. And in fact, just imagine if you were going to take a European visitor who had never been in this country but was well educated. You take that visitor around the state campus, around the Carolina campus, Dukes, East Carolina, and show everything. And when you get to the stadium, now of course at NC State the stadium is a little bit removed, so maybe you get to Reynolds Auditorium, and whenever you get to the stadium, so let's say we come upon Kenan Stadium, and the visitor turns to you and says, "What is this doing here?" And that's the book. The book tries to answer the question, what is this doing here? Well, it turns out that back in 1957, when a 31-year-old Queen Elizabeth was visiting the United States, right in the wake of Sputnik and Central High School in Little Rock, she was visiting, and she visited the Washington area, visited a giant department store. But one of the things she did was to go to Byrd Stadium when the North Carolina Tar Heels were playing the Terrapins in football. Sonny Jim Tatum, who had been the coach at Maryland for many years, had just gone to North Carolina. And they were playing what has to be described as a grudge match. And let's see if I can make anything like this work. Let's see. No, that's not going to do it. Any help would be greatly appreciated. Let's see about this. Okay, I need my technical people here. And I just...
I think you have to press the blackout button.
Okay.
The left and right.
Left and right, okay. Great, thank you. All right, so this is going to go right.
Yes.
So here's the picture. So this is Governor Luther Hodges. He's greeting Her Majesty in the stands. And just imagine what's going through her mind. So this is really the picture I wanted to show. Let me start at another university. This is the University of Texas at Austin. And this is a picture of the Nanoscience Center. And this building represents one of the great things American universities do. It is to do research, and it's world-class research. Nanoscience, of course, is the science of very little things, but the applications are tremendous. They're in batteries, they're in solar panels, they're in a lot of medical applications. This is going on at the University of Texas, Austin. But a 10-minute walk away is another world indeed, and that is the Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium. And coexisting in this great university are these two worlds. In this world, the players are taken to practice every day, to practice in a chartered bus. And when they dress out, they're in a locker room that has a 20-foot long light at the top of the ceiling in the shape of a longhorn. There are flat screen TVs and everything else. These things coexist in what we think of as American universities. Now, American universities are some of the best in the world. Here is a list of the top 20 universities plus Texas. The top 20 universities in the entire world, look at how many are from the United States. 17